Thanks for coming to hang with me. So, I know most of the people here. What we want to do today is really just have some fun and figure out the best ways to talk to people and to handle objections that come up in any type of business situation. So, I handed out, just let me know if you don't get a copy. I think we made like 35 copies, so it should be enough. But basically just a little packet that's just going to be a guide for what we go through today, but it's going to be pretty open. So if you guys want to jump in with questions along the way, feel free to do that. And then as we go, you guys could just kind of throw out some objections that you're getting, and we'll break down different ways to to respond to those. My name is DeVoe, for any of you guys that don't know me. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to share with you today, I learned through studying NLP, which stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So basically, KW has a program called the Language of Sales. How many people have taken that? Yeah, cool. And I know a couple of guys on my team are in it right now. It's very similar to that. So, and I know a lot of people have done Bold too. And in Bold, they touch on a lot of the embedded commands and adverb presuppositions and some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. But it's basically figuring out ways to talk to people and different patterns to speak, to come across in an authoritative, empowering way. And a lot of times people think that means, I want to learn NLP because I want to learn how to manipulate people. But it's really not manipulating people. It's kind of, in a lot of cases, helping them get out of their own way or helping them realize what's best for them in the best way possible. And if we can figure out what type of language is going to create rapport and, less resistance, we're going to have just much more success. So, who knows what an objection is? I'm sure everybody here has gotten an objection before, right? Somebody tell me what your definition of an objection would be.
Somebody's automatic response to like fear or something like that.
Okay. Somebody's automatic response or like a fear. Okay. Anything else? When you hear the word objection, what comes to mind? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
A reason not to do whatever it is that you're suggesting. Okay,
so they're giving you a reason not to do what you're suggesting, right?
A lot of times I think it's a lack of understanding. I think it's a means to providing more information.
Yeah. So a lack of understanding from the client.
From the client.
Yeah.
I look at it as an opportunity to kind of get to the root problem, because usually the initial objection is not the real objection.
Right.
You have to drill down and really get to the crux of the...
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, everybody's right, really. An objection is a question in the minds of the buyer or seller or renter that has yet to be answered, right? It's just a question in their mind that hasn't been answered. And a lot of times the question is not even related to the objection that they give you. Most of them just put out this reflex, like Steve said, just a reflex. They're going to throw out an objection because they're not convinced yet that you're the right person a lot of the times. So it's real important that we understand that what they're putting at you is not necessarily exactly what is going to get them in the door to work with you, or to get to their goals. It's a knee-jerk no. Like there's that example of when you walk into a department store and you clearly are looking for something, you don't know where it is. It's a huge store, and the salesman comes right up to you and says, "Do you need help?" And you're like, "No, I'm just looking." But then you really need help. It's just the reflex no, and that objection comes in many forms. So I have notes here, just so you guys know. So that's what I'm just kind of referring to them here, so I can stay on track. So the objection, most of the time, it's not even their real concern. What we want to do is learn how to use those objections as a tool to guide them towards what they really want, right? So the way that that we do that is to align with them and then redirect. So align and redirect is the mantra that you want to follow. No matter what's happening, you want to align with them. When you're in rapport with somebody and you're aligned with them, what happens? Resistance goes down, trust goes up, and most of the time business gets done pretty easily. When the trust level is up, that's where the door opens and when the resistance is down. So if you're opposing forces, there's tension there. And when there's tension, there's a little bit of rejection, and it's really hard to overcome that. I mean, you could most of the time people just they bulldoze their way through the situation and get it done. But it's so much easier when we're talking about something and you give me an objection, instead of me going straight on with you and doing battle and just being metaphoric here. If I can turn and put my arm around you, agree with you, look at the situation, and then say, all right, let's go this way now, because we've aligned and now I can redirect you to the right place. So that's what we want to focus on, and the basis for all of that is rapport. And a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about today, it can't happen without having rapport. You can't handle an objection from somebody without having rapport, because some of these objection patterns are a little bit aggressive, they're a little bit edgy, and if you don't have that rapport, they're just going to be like if you throw something out there, you'll know what I'm talking about later, but they're just going to be like, who's this asshole? I don't know him. Why does he feel that he can do that? But when you're in rapport with somebody, you have that trust. So let's talk really quick about rapport and how does that work. So a lot of times agents will ask me, how do you get into rapport? A lot of the objections that I'm getting are when I'm calling FSBOs or I'm calling expires. And the objection comes in the first 15 seconds. So I didn't even have time to get into rapport with them because I haven't even talked to them. The thought is that it takes moments and hours and days and weeks to build rapport with somebody. But the truth is, you could start to build rapport in 1 second with the client. And that is by doing what we call mirroring and matching. Who's ever heard of that? So mirroring and matching basically is the first step to getting into rapport. So if somebody answers the phone in a certain way, you want to respond to them in the exact certain way, right? If somebody is speaking fast, you want to speak fast. If somebody's speaking slow, you want to speak slow. And what we're doing there is we're starting to align with them in the initial conversation. As you progress into the conversation, you're going to work on other things, and we'll talk about that a little more on how to identify a little bit with their emotional state and connect with them there. But we want to start to build that connection in the first few seconds in any possible way we can, right? So let's talk a little bit about the tonality and the emotion. So what happens is when you match someone's tonality and you match their emotion, what do you think happens there? How do you think that makes them feel? You make them feel comfortable, yeah. So you match what somebody's doing, they're going to feel comfortable. So who here has ever just been in a shitty mood where it's just one of those days, it's it's early, you're tired, you haven't had your coffee, and then somebody comes bumbling up to you tons of energy, right in your face. How do you guys feel when that happens?
For God's sakes, man, bring it down.
Yeah. Right? I have an objection immediately. You're repelled, right? I mean, at that moment, you're repelled. That may not be how you are, but just in that situation, if that's how that resistance is there, you're going to be repelled, and you're going to do anything you can to get out of that. And that's what happens in a lot of selling situations is they're repelled by something, there's a misalignment, and they're going to do anything they can to get out of that, and most of the times it's an objection. So what do we do from there? So basically, what we want to do is if somebody is in that mood, you want to get into that mood with them, right? The end goal is to bring them to a place of enthusiasm, to bring them to a place of where there is a different energy where you can start to be productive, but you can't just force them into that. I mean, that's trying to manipulate them, that's being selfish. So what you want to do is you want to align with them, match their tonality, match their emotional state, and they're going to feel comfortable, and the trust is going to start to go up, and that's where you can start to move them to a place where they can look at things in a different light. And that when you can do that, objection handling really doesn't even have to happen. You know what I mean? We'll talk more about that later, but what you're going to learn is once you start to learn these techniques, yes, we're going to work on objection handling and the content of the words that you're going to say to people. We're going to work on it. But once you have this part of it down, most of the time you don't even need that. You don't get the objections because you create that level of comfort with them right off the bat, and they're just like, the trust is there, and you have authority. They're gonna do what you say. So let's we'll talk a little bit more about tonality. I know we did a lot of this at Bold, and I know a lot of you guys were at Bold, but I'm going to go through it again. Is the rate of speech. So when you're talking to somebody, most people, would you guys agree in our market that most people talk fast, right? In New York area, we talk faster, especially than the rest of the world. So picture yourself, you're having a conversation with somebody, and they talk really slow. Hey, so how was the party that you guys went to on Friday? Did you guys have a good? How weird is this? Like, how does this feel to you guys? Like, yeah, it's just like it just feels awkward because we're misaligned, right? So if you're talking with somebody that speaks very fast and you're talking slow, that's the kind of energy that you guys just felt right there. That's what's happening. You want to match the rate of speech that they have. So however they're talking, you have to talk. You have to mimic them. We're going to mimic their rate of speech. We're going to mimic their tonality. We're going to mimic their accent. Anything that they're doing, you want to be right there with them. Because the truth is, if they talk very fast and you talk very slow, what do you think they think about you?
Making fun of
You're not smart.
They think you're stupid. Yeah, they want to pull their hair out and poke their eyes out. That's what they want. But on the other hand, if they talk very slow and you're talking very fast, then what do you think happens?
They don't trust you.
They feel insulted.
So they seem positive.
Yes.
Push them to the right side.
Yeah, you're a shyster, right?
Yeah.
They feel trust you immediately. Wow, this guy, So keep in mind that's, when you're being you and doing what you think is right, talking at your rate of speech with your tonality and everything that you think is right, most of the time you're rejecting everybody that you're talking to. Only when you could start to focus on what they're doing and start to mirror that and match that, you're honoring them. They're going to feel that. They're going to feel this subliminal connection with you. And then you can move forward. You don't always have to talk at that rate of speech. It's just building that rapport, building that level of trust. And it happens really, really quick, no pun intended. But, some of the people here we've prospected together, and I'm on the phone actually doing accents and, talking with people in an accent, and they're like, how could you do that? They're gonna get pissed. They're gonna think you're making fun of them. And I always say, all right, I challenge you to get caught making fun of somebody. I want you to get on the phone and do this and have somebody go, are you making fun of me? Because it never happens. What does happen is people relate to it.
There's a camera right behind you. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Camera.
sorry. Couldn't even see it. Hi.
So I will do it to the point where I show up to an appointment and they're like, you're a white guy? I thought you were going to be an Indian, or whatever the nationality is, because of, whatever, just being honest, whatever it is, I'm talking like they're talking, and I'm relating to them in that way. And it's not making fun of them, it's actually getting on their wavelength and honoring them to a point where they feel comfortable with you, I've never had somebody make fun of it. It's, what you're going to notice, what it also does is it really forces you to actually listen to what they're saying, We'll talk more about that later too, but the biggest thing that we do here is I'm going to learn the scripts, right? And I'm going to say the scripts at people, and then when they say something, I'm going to say, all right, I can appreciate that, and I'm going to say something else at them. But what this does is it forces you to actually listen to what they're doing, because you have to listen to it, because you're going to have to mimic them and mirror them and match them. So it's pretty cool that you kill like a bunch of birds with one stone. Right? So how's everybody doing with this so far? Any questions, comments, hallucinations?
Do you act normal when you get to the house?
Do I act normal when I get to the house?
Yeah.
We'll get there. It's a good question, right? Because what's normal? What I think is normal is not normal to somebody else.
Speaking.
The question always comes up. I studied this for 18 months, where I had to do this every single day. It was like, I was held accountable to doing these types of techniques every day. And my question after the first 6 months was like, when do I ever get to be me? I'm constantly mimicking, mirroring, matching people. And my coach was like, when you want to stop selling, But no, there's a point where my clients are just like, I know that they're there, and I am being myself around them. But we want to talk about different ways to get an edge on things. So if I notice that somebody is saying a certain phrase, I had a client, a prospect today, that after everything he said, he asked me, right? It was like, it didn't even belong in some of the sentences, but he was like, yeah, this, whatever, right? This, whatever, right? And he kept saying it, so I just kept saying it. Things like that. And because what happens when you start to see that somebody's like you, you're like, this guy's cool. Yeah, when you're like, they're just like me, you accept that, right? So you have to be that person that's just like them. And you want to use these first 10, 15 seconds in the best way you can on the phone to get them there. Because they're going to be like, wow, this is different. I don't know why. They don't know why. But it's just different,
I have a question. If someone curses, do you curse
Yeah.
in your conversation?
Yes.
I say like, who the fuck is this? Who the fuck is this?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, the truth is, I don't get that a lot, because that first hello that they say, I'm like a parrot. Like, I'm saying hello exactly the way they say it, right back to them. And it just does something to them, So I don't get the initial, coming at me like a bull. But if I'm in a situation with somebody and they're using certain languages, I'm going to use those languages too. I'm not going to be talking like type A personality when this is a driver who's just a bulldog and is like using, swear words. Like, I'm not afraid to do that when it's the right time, right? But if I'm talking to like an elderly old woman who doesn't, and I'm not going to be dropping F-bombs, the whole point of this is to figure out, you have to be able to read them. The only way to do that is to pay attention to them. And that in itself is going to get you to a higher comfort level with them when they start to see, wow, this guy's actually listening to me, instead of just barking lines at me. But no, it's a good question. For a while, I was scared to do that stuff, but I started to see how well it was working, and it was fun after a while. So when we talk about aligning with somebody, right, and redirecting, there's the go-to line is like, when somebody gives you something and we're supposed to repeat and approve, right? You guys have heard that. Repeat and approve. What is that? What's the repeat and approve line that comes to your mind? Just start saying stuff out. If I say, you know what, I'm going to wait until February to list.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that you want to wait until February to list. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah. So you want to repeat it and you want to approve it. So you don't just want to repeat it. So, okay, February list, great. So that's repeat and approve. And a lot of people will say, I could appreciate that as like, the one that everybody goes to, and that's in a lot of the scripts that are out there too. But what we want to do is make sure that when we're repeating and approving them, that we actually care about what we're not just saying words to them. You want to be there with them. So if they say something, if they say, we're going to wait till February. Oh, February, wow. Okay, that's great. So tell me more about that. What makes you choose February over now? You could take it to the next level, but it has to be. You have to actually be there. You can't just be robotic with it. February, great. I can appreciate that. Why? It's not going to work. So make sure you're purposeful with some of the phrases that we're using to get into rapport and build alignment with them. questions? Okay, so we've talked about the initial alignment, building rapport with them. And what I want to do now is go into a little bit of some of the actual language patterns that we've learned. And so you always want to think of this as a triangle, right? So you have a triangle. I don't have a whiteboard, so I'll just go like this. You guys just remember that triangle. It's right there. So you have you here at the top, right? You have the client here on this side, and then you have content over here, the words and stuff like that. So I'm sorry, you have the connection with the client, and you have the content. So the shortest distance between you and the client is the connection. The longest distance is the content. So in actuality, the connection that you have is much, much more valuable than the content that you have. So you want to know the content because that's going to give you the confidence. And knowing what to say is really important, and the skills that you develop are very, very important. And definitely the most important thing is that connection, the first part of this conversation that we talked about. So as we go into this, don't forget that we're doing this from a place of we've already built this rapport with them. We have a great connection. They think that we're different and we're like them, and they like us for that, and they have trust in us. So if you don't have that rapport and you use some of these objections, it's going to be rough. So the first thing we're going to talk about is called single binds. Okay. Has anybody ever heard of these? No? Okay. Has anybody heard of pacing and leading? Yeah? Okay. Pacing and leading is basically another way of align and redirect, right? So pacing is agreeing with something that someone just said and then repeating it, or asking a question that you know they're going to say yes to in their mind. So we're at 100 Washington, right? Yeah. We're in the training room, right? And it's really warm out this week, right? So you could already see that when we get together, you're going to want to list your home with me because I'm the best agent for the job. Just random examples, but the pattern is like I'm getting them to say yes in their mind a few times, and then I'm asking them, and then I'm bringing in a sales question. So that's pacing and leading right there. Those probably weren't the best questions, but you're gonna, you could be on an appointment and say something like, "We're sitting in your house," and in their mind they're saying yes, and we're going through this listing presentation, yes, and you have a beautiful home here, yes. So you could automatically see that spending time with me is showing you that I can get this home sold in the next 2 weeks and get you to Florida by February, no problem. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. Okay, so all we have to do is sign a contract. So that's the pattern that we're going to talk about here. Leading is like that second part of it. Once they're in that mindset of saying yes, 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 that's when you're going to lead them into the close. That's where you're going to get a more natural flow to your close rather than just trying to pound a close into their face, right? So the single binds, these are really, really cool. I use them all the time. The more I learn how this stuff works, the easier it is for me to use them, and the more I'm able to be here helping everybody else and kind of sharing this, the easier it is for me to kind of just have these language patterns embedded in my mind. And the easier that is for me, the more business I get, right? That makes sense? So the more you pace, the more you lead, and you close with a title. So I've probably used these maybe a dozen times already today. The more you pace, the more you lead. The more you pace, the less you lead. The less you pace, the more you lead. The less you pace, the less you lead. So these are different examples of ways you could structure this pattern. What I want to do is I'm going to skip like these trigger words here, and we're going to go to the next page I don't know if it's the next page for you, but some of the examples. So the pattern is the sooner we get together, here's an example. The sooner we get together, the more money you will get for your home. You want the most money, right? Okay. So that statement is not necessarily true, but you're phrasing it in a way that they will believe it's true, and you're going to be able to set an appointment quicker because it's almost, kind of hypnotizing a little bit the way that this pattern works. Like at the end of that, you guys were just kind of like, yeah, but then you're like, how did I get there? Like, what just happened? So I said, the sooner we get together, the more money you'll get for your home. You want the most money, right? They're saying yes. So, and I just told them that the sooner, I just put, that's already embedded. I have rapport with them, so in their mind, it's the sooner we get together, the sooner we're going to get I want the most money, right? And then you close for the appointment, because it's going to be really hard for them to say no at that point. Or for an expired, the sooner you invite me over, the sooner all these agents are going to stop calling you. These are just some of the ones that I wrote in my Zoom opinion. I'm just going to pick some of the better ones. So the more you think about the lack of inventory in the market right now, the easier it is to realize that when you find the house you love, you're going to have to act immediately. So let's talk about this for a little bit. So the more you pace, the more you lead, right? So you want something in there that's a true yes, and then you want something in there that's leading them in a direction where they may not have been before, but you can close them. Are you guys following? I know it's a little weird. So, so before I was just saying things like, the more I share this information with you, the easier it is for me to get business. Like, if you look at those two sentences, they don't have anything to do with each other. But I saw a lot of people just going, yeah, because it's just the way it's phrased. It's like, so as we look into more examples, the more this is my favorite one. We definitely still use it today. Back in the day, I use it all the time. The more upset you get about the price, the more you realize that I'm telling you the truth. So when you're on a listing point, you're talking price, or you're in price reduction, or whatever you do. You know what I'm noticing? The more you get upset about the price, the more you realize that I'm just telling you the truth. So you could already see that we need to improve our price now to get the property sold, right? Or the longer you've been on the market, the quicker you realize that you want an aggressive plan like mine to get you guys to Florida. So this is for, let's say, an expired who's on the market for 6 months. So the longer you've been on the market, that's a pace right there, because that actually happened. So I say the longer you've been on the market, and they in their head say, yeah, I've been on the market a long time, the easier it is to realize that you need an agent like me to get the home sold and get you to Florida. And, right? And they're just like, yeah, I guess so. And then set the appointment. Any questions so far? Any objections or anything that I'm not calling you, Steve. Nobody has any questions or comments so far?
I got this email from one of my mortgage people, and it says it's one of their whatever they send out thing. It says a no is as good as a yes. Lead follow up that wins business. You're saying pretty much the opposite, and saying let prospects up front that no is okay. You're saying don't do that.
I don't know that we're talking about the same thing there. Tell me more about that.
It says let prospects know up front that no is okay.
You can do that. All right, so that's a totally separate thing, right? But it does relate to this, right? So we can go to certain listing presentations where in the beginning of the presentation, I'll say to the seller, at the end of my presentation today, one of three things is going to happen. Number one, you may decide to list your home with me. Number two, you may decide not to list your home with me. Or number three, I may decide not to take your listing. And I just want you to know right now, either one of those three is perfectly fine, okay? So that's kind of taking away the no leverage. What does that do? It levels the playing field at that point. It lets them know that it is okay. If you may decide, I may decide it's perfectly fine. So it levels the playing field. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
I just felt like the examples you were given, you don't even go down that road. You kind of steer away from that.
Yeah, I'm in rapport at that point. I'm in rapport with them. They trust me. We've established that connection already, right? So there's no reason for me to even address a possible no.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in the mode of getting them to think yes.
Right.
Yeah, if they bring something up and say to me, "Oh, well, we're not going to list," you know, that's perfectly fine.
Oh,
And most of my clients say that all the time, and most of them end up listing anyway. But you know, that's fine.
Yeah.
So you want to balance between the two. You definitely don't want to be attached to the outcome. So you want to show them that, you know, yeah. But if you have this authority and you're speaking in these type of patterns, it's rare that that's even going to come up at this point.
Yeah. It's a drip campaign.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's talking about the 3 no's to a yes scenario where you get all the no's out the way initially, and then you get to yes. That's kind of what it sounds like he's talking about. But that's totally different from what you're talking about. So
Yeah, they're both effective. Yeah, I don't think they're related really, but yeah, we're focusing here on moving them forward in a yes position. And yeah. Anything else so far? So good. You guys want me to give you more examples of this?
yeah, sure.
I don't know if you have them on your sheet. I have a lot more than you do. So yeah, we went through that one. So the more you talk to me, the more confident you will be that I'm the right agent for you. That right there is so simple, and it's crazy, right? But it's pacing and leading. So the more you talk to me, you're talking to me at that point. So I just validated that, and you're in yes mode. The more you realize that I'm the best agent for the job. You want the best agent, right? So you just want to put tie downs at the end of these two. If we go back to the other page where I just listed a lot of the tie downs. You know, isn't that what you want? Won't that be great? Does that work for you? Okay, right? What do you think? You know, things like that. Those are the tie downs. You know, the more it's talking to a buyer, the more you review the comps, the more you realize that our initial offer has to be the best offer possible. You love this place, right? Or the sooner you act on this, the less chance you have of losing out to another buyer. I have a bunch more here. Let's see if there's any really good ones. The more you talk to other agents, the less you trust their opinion. Aren't you glad you found somebody who tells you the truth finally? So a lot of these, you know, like I said, you got to be in rapport. You got to use them with the right personality types. You know, the sooner you speak to my preferred lender, Arthur, the easier it's going to be to get the sellers to consider you a strong offer. You want the best chance of getting this at the best price possible, right? So that's a good one for people who don't want to talk to your preferred lender. You know? I wrote a couple of, you know, no offense if anybody works for a big bank here, but the more you speak to these random large banks, the more you realize how little they know about local condo financing. You want a mortgage lender who has the best rates and knows how to get it closed, right? The more comfortable your tenants are with me, the easier it's going to be for us to sell your property. Wouldn't you agree? Perfect. So let's go over how we can make this the most seamless transition possible for you and your tenants. And then I have some for rentals. I'm just going to rattle through these. The more you resist paying a broker fee, the less and less apartments you'll have access to. You needed to move by March, right? The more you realize that paying a broker fee is the standard, the more great apartments you're going to have available to choose from. So again, it's just, you know, the more you pace, the more you lead. And then tie down questions after that. So those are single binds. You can feel free to keep these handouts and use any of those. But the best success I had was actually sitting there. So what I do is for 18 months, I had to sit down and write 10 objection handlers a day for each pattern, and it was like single binds. Like so for a month, I had to write 10 of these single binds a day, hand write them every month, and I did that for 18 months, and that's how this language for me is just like embedded. So it's all about practice, you know. the more you kind of learn all these scripts, like the easier it's going to be for you to just have them internalized and not make it seem like it's forced. Like that, what I just said. That was a pacing and meaning statement. So who's got questions or, anything I haven't talked about that you're coming across with objections? We have another pattern that we're going to do, but.
How do you know people when they say like right off the bat, like I can't talk right now, too busy. You still try, or do you?
Like if you're calling somebody and they're saying,
yeah, like I can't talk about this right now, like they immediately shut you down.
There's a couple of ways you could handle it. We'll role play, right? So, what's your name?
Chris.
Ring, ring. Hello? Chris?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. It's Dave, DeVoe from Keller Williams. Hey, I saw your home expired. I was wondering if you had an offer that was acceptable. Would you sell it?
Can you call me later? I'm a little busy right now.
Yeah, what time works best?
Maybe 5, 6.
Okay.
Actually, I'll call you.
I'm going to put you down at 5. Is this the best number to reach you back?
Yes.
In the meantime, I'm going to shoot you an email with my contact info. Hey, by the way, if you had a cash offer for full price on the place, would you sell it?
Yes.
Oh. Perfect. Where are you moving to if you did? Yeah, so I'm already in a conversation, yeah. So, because, so I'm going to do my best to build that rapport immediately. But if you're just jumping down my throat, like, I can't talk, I'm going to be like, oh, I can't talk either, I'm so busy. What time works best for you?
So you basically mirror a person, what you're doing.
Yeah. Or I'll
So
just
if,
be like,
if the person's saying, I can't talk, you go back, I'm busy too, boom, give me time, is what you're saying.
yeah, I get it. You're busy. We're all busy. I know. I don't want to bother you. So what's the best time to reach you? I don't know. 4 o'clock. Oh, okay, cool. What happened with the house? Try to get a quick question in there. Try to keep them online. But if they're super busy, you're going to figure it out real quick. But the idea is to try to, be different enough and similar to them enough where they're going to be like, they're going to just stay, because you just hung with me for a second there, right? You didn't just say, oh, we got. So it's all about that first part of what we talked about, is building that rapport.
So in that case, you asked him, I'll shoot you a quick email, and then you would get his email address, and then follow that up with a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you are building that rapport, how do you try to bond with them? Like on a more personal, like do you try to get more out of them personally, or do you try to keep it on a business level?
Were you here in the beginning?
No.
Okay, what we were talking about in the beginning is using simple things like your tonality, your emotions, and your rate of speech to build that rapport instead of relying solely on the content of the words that you're using. So when the more you understand how to build that trust right away, the less you're going to have to rely on the content. You know what I mean? Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So when you go through the whole I'm only in this a year and a half, so I'm always I just started doing listing presentations. So when I go in, I go in with my whole listing presentation, but it's kind of like an awkward segue into how to get that information, and I'm also trying to kind of befriend them, but it's I don't know, a weird dance that I'm trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
get in there.
It's tough. It's going to be a tough listing presentation if a weird dance is what you're doing with them. You have to be doing an unweird dance, or unless they're just a weird person, then you should be weird dancing with them. So I think up front, leading to for me, right? And I'm not saying this to brag or anything, but by the time I get to the presentation, I'm getting it. Most of the time, it's just there. We've already talked 4 times. I've spent that entire time mirroring and matching them and using language like this, and speaking at their rate of speech. That I don't have to talk to them about whether they play golf or do this or we have the same kind of dog. They've already got this mentality that there's something about this guy that I like, and what it is that I'm like them. No matter who they are, I'm being like them. You like people who are like you, and you feel that comfort. then from there you could go anywhere. You know. Yeah.
Well, there's a few people, but there's one particular agent that does a ton of business in the area,
Yeah.
and someone I went to high school with has done some transactions with them, and I mean, no personality, quite. In fact, he's a bit of a jerk. And first thing he says, and other people I've met about him, what a professional. Just stick to the business. All that stuff will come up during the transaction. If you come off professional, I mean, they're hiring you as they would a doctor or lawyer. So you got to prove professionalism. Not, oh, hey, nice dog. You know, stick to business.
That's very true. And also, what's true is that if their personality style lends them more to that expressive side, you have to be there too. You can't be too professional. If somebody's very expressive and they're openly talking about their dog, you have to be right there with them. You can't just be a total, businessman when they're over here, because that's going to create some disconnect too. You have to find a way to be able to connect with them and still show them that you're the professional and you're the authority. And the way to do it is like we're saying, to build that rapport with them, become them, and as soon as it clicks in their mind, then, like I said before, you instead of standing in front of them toe-to-toe, opposing them, you go next to them, you put your arm around them, and then you bring them wherever you need to or want to bring them to get the best result for them. Right? It's always the goal here is to get the best result for them, not to talk them into something that you want, because they'll always feel that energy. So that will be the opposition. But yeah, that's a great point. Cool. Yeah.
I mean, is that the idea for the most part to build rapport? Did you find yourself speaking to prospects maybe 3 or 4 times, and then once you're pretty confident, 90-95% sure you'll get to listing, then that's when you do your listing presentation?
Yeah, that's at that point, at the listing presentation, right? So there's other steps, and we're not going to get to this stuff today. There's so much that goes into this NLP, right? But there's certain, you're mimicking their body. So if I was talking to you right now, what do you think, what looks similar to you and I right now?
Our hand.
Yeah.
Hand gesture.
Right. Yeah. So
I didn't notice it actually until you just mentioned it.
Right. They're not going to, they can't notice, you can't have them notice it right away because that would be weird. So you don't want to be just like following all their movements, right? But if somebody like leans to the side, like you're leaning on a chair like that, and I want to connect with you, I see you make a movement like that, I'm going to wait a little bit, and as I'm listening to you, I'm going to fall into the same type of motion. If you're like this, listening to me, I'm going to be right there, So at the presentation, you're always doing, this is just what you do. This is just what you do. Not only as a salesperson, but, I do it with my wife. I do it with my kids. Like, if I need to be in rapport, like, that's just what I do, Because I found that a lot of times people, when you're trying to build rapport with people, I don't do it with my wife. I should do it more. But definitely I notice it with my kids, right? So if my son is like, my 2-year-old's like, doing something like that, and I'm over him like this, not literally, but like that's the position I'm taking, he's just going to keep opposing me. But I notice that when I get down to his level, and I'm, in that same type of energy flow, he's 2, and he feels it. So just imagine how other people feel it. So to answer your question, by the time I'm at the listing presentation, yes, I have rapport with them. I've gotten there. That listing is mine. So I can be myself also, but I still have to, get price agreement, get them assigned today. There's things that I have to do to make sure that they get to where they need to be. So I'm always in that rapport building mode. And even after the transaction's over, I want referrals for them. So I still want them to feel comfortable with me. So, it's just how it is. It's a good question. I struggled with that for a while when I was learning this, because I was so attached to like, why don't people like me for me, and they do, but I'm trying to, we're trying to get to a higher level of consciousness and bigger connections with people than just being like, this is me. But I don't know. Maybe that might piss a lot of people off. You guys off, but works. People are happier.
If I can follow up on that question, like last night I met with someone that, right off the bat, he's like, I'm not gonna list. If I do, he just expired, so he's like, I'm gonna try on my own for a little bit, and then I have a family friend that would you? I met with the person, but would you have met with him even there, or how would you have handled that situation? Not only the objection, but also just the overall.
Whether they
Yeah,
say they have a family friend or
situation.
something?
He's going like this, like giving you the reflex no, because he gave you 3 different objections. He said, I'm not going to list, but if I do, I'm going to. So he is going to list, and then he's got a friend in the business, so he's just throwing out objections.
Well, he meant he's not going to list tonight.
Yeah, that's not necessarily true. So, he just needs to get out of his own way. So if you were to build that rapport right off the bat, the first word you speak to him, and get on his level, and he's saying to you, well, I'm not going to list. Well, I don't expect you to list. You just we're on the market for 6 months and the guy couldn't sell it. Why would you list? Let's get together and I could show you what we did to sell 50 homes in the 6 months that you were on the market not selling. Or it depends on his personality. I might not say that to everybody. I'm not going to say that to a lot of people, but you get the point. It's like, oh, okay, so you're not going to list, but you're going to list with your friend. So you have a friend in the business, or wait, what did you say? And then they'll be like, no, and I'll be like, well, let's back up a second. We're not talking about listing right now. I just wanted to know what happened here. Did you sell? Did you have contracts? Why didn't it sell? Where did you move into? And get into a conversation and use that as a way to kind of re-engage him and start building that rapport with him. And then before you know it, those objections are going to just disappear.
Is that in person? He said was in this team.
Oh yeah.
Well, both.
If it's in person, then you just need a better pre-qual.
Diana Kokoska, who created Bold, and did a live role play at a family reunion last year, and a guy threw that at her on stage. He goes, well, I'm not ready to list. He's like, then why am I here? And did a mic drop.
Exactly.
Shut it down. Clearly, then why am I here?
Well, the first question on the pre-qualifying script when you set the appointment is, if you feel comfortable and confident when we get together on Thursday that I could get the home sold for the most amount of money that the market will allow, if you know that 100%, would you plan on listing with me? And most of the time, some say yes, some say no, some say, well, we'll see what you have to say. But you've drilled that into their head. And then the second thing is, if you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was the best agent for you, what possibly could keep you from listing with me when we meet? Because that's where you're going to flush out that objection of, I have a friend in the business, or I'm just not, so you should know all that stuff before you get to the appointment anyway. But, you can use this stuff. But the more you think about it, the more you know that everybody has a friend in the business. But not everybody lists with their friends because they value their friendships. You want the best agent to get your home sold, right? We may become friends throughout the process, but for now, I'm just focused on getting you to blank, whatever your motivation is. Cool. What time is it? Oh, wow. All right, let's keep going. So the next pattern we're going to talk about is level shifting. Has anybody heard this? Level shifting?
No.
Really? You said you level shifted me before, Karen. You said what I hear you saying is right. You probably ought to say some of these phrases, but so let's look at level shifting and.
Yes, I think we just don't know the actual terminology, what everything's called,
Yeah. Here's the pattern for level shifting. So before it was the more you pace, the more you lead. This is you're going to repeat and approve, and don't worry, we'll break this down. We'll go through. You're going to repeat and approve what they say. You're going to level shift. Then you're going to add in a motivational / empowering statement, and then a tie down. This is one of the more simple patterns, but I know if you haven't heard it before, you're just like, what are you even talking about? But let's try to go through a couple of these. The level shifts portion of it. So repeat and approve, we went over that, right? So whatever they say to you, you repeat, and you say, cool, or that's great, or excellent, or interesting, or whatever, is right for that situation. Then you're going to add in the level shifts. And the level shifts I wrote out here are what I think you're saying is, or the real issue is, or what appears most important to you is, right? You guys see that? Then after that, you're going to basically just change the conversation to whatever you want it to be. and you're going to add in a motivational / empowering statement. So the objective of the level shift is to change the conversation to something you feel empowered talking about, right? An example would be if somebody asks you to cut your commission, you have a couple of choices there. You can talk about the commission, or you can talk about their net bottom line. Talking about which of those two do you think is going to be more empowering and easier for you to get them to the closing table? Their net, right? So you're just going to take what they say to you and Houdini it and just change it and move it into something else that puts it in a direction where they could start to now see that what they just said to you was completely stupid. Not in an insulting way, but a lot of times it just truly is. You're helping them get out of their own way and be like, why are we talking about commission? Look at what your bottom line is going to be, right? And then the tie down close, right? So what I wrote here is, so would you rather talk about the commission or would you rather talk about their bottom line? Would you rather talk about the seller waiting until summer, or would you rather talk about what gets them excited about selling? Would you rather talk about them having a friend in the business, or would you rather talk about them having multiple offers on the market? The truth is, with this pattern, you can change the conversation to anything you want and just move it in your direction easily, as long as you know how to do it. So any questions on this so far?
Will you do a role play on that?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I have some here, or you just throw something in?
No, just the one.
Well, kind of like sounded what you did with Jerry. Like he was saying, well, I have a friend in the business. You kind of switched it to, well, do you want a professional or do you want to kind of a little bit?
Yeah, I think I use a bind there. I said the more you think about it, the more you understand everybody has a friend in the business. Yeah, because we were talking about binds. So everything I was saying before, I was trying to throw binds in. But now we're talking about this. So, with that same objection, you do the same thing. So, you have a friend in the business. I appreciate that. Everybody does, right? Yeah. So what I hear you saying really is you want to make sure that you hire the best agent for the job. You want the most money, right? Yeah. That's absolutely not what you said. And that's not what you said to me. But when I say it in a way where, it just brings you in and you're like, yeah, okay, I want the most money. And it's, you could say coffee and I could say coffee. What I hear you saying is pumpkin, and if you use the pattern right, people are going to be like, yeah, that's okay, So like, so give me something and I'll.
No, that was perfect. Okay, I have one.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to market my house myself. I'm going to sell my house myself. So I don't really feel like I need an agent.
Okay, so you want to sell it on your own, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I could totally appreciate that. And what I'm getting from that is that you want to make sure that you net the most money possible at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
Great. That's exactly why we should get together. I have 40 minutes on Thursday. We could sit down and I could show you exactly how I was able to net 3 people who were thinking about selling on their own 5% more than they were getting before. Do you think that'd be helpful?
Yes.
Commission 6%.
I can use that.
I was thinking of.
Well, this is another good objection that people say a lot is, well, things sell here, so why do I need to pay your commission when I can pay so-and-so less? Because it's going to sell, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you or him or he or she sells it. Everything sells here in Hoboken. I'm just using Hoboken, for example.
Yeah, a lot of stuff sells here. Yeah, you're right. I absolutely appreciate that. And what I hear you saying is, with regards to the commission, is you want to make sure that you're netting the most amount of money possible at the end of the day, right? Same thing. Okay. So you're going to say yes to that question 99.9% of the time. And then I could say, okay, so you're saying what happens after that? So after that, I'm going to be like, the more you think about it, the more you realize that there's a lot more to just putting a property on the MLS. What if we sat down and I showed you how the properties that were listed with agents sold for whatever percent more than the people who were doing it on their own? Do you think that'd be valuable? So you could just take that in any direction. But they've already said yes to you've already gone through this pattern with them and changed the conversation completely to something that empowers rather than, no, anybody can sell. try to think about what we're talking about here, right? So a lot of times the mistake that a lot of agents make is that you buy into the objection. They give you an objection and you live in that objection. You're in that with them and you start to buy into it. And once you start to buy into it, like it's over. You're just gonna cower down and be like, you're gonna stutter or whatever. So once you understand that, as long as you're in rapport with them, whatever they're saying to you is, you're gonna listen to it, you're gonna appreciate it, and you're gonna change it to something that is empowering. So the same thing. It could be anything. There are a lot of properties selling. So I definitely appreciate that. And what I hear you saying is you really want to get to Florida by March. I mean, isn't that what you want?
Yes, but so and so will do it for 2%. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out.
Well, you said that already. Yeah. So what I hear you saying is, you want the most money possible, and you got to do it by March. Yeah. So I mean, really, you're not going to take it like I said before. Somebody's not going to say sidewalk, and then you say, what I hear you saying is refrigerator. Like, it's got to be something along the lines of, like, it's got to have their motivation in it. But that's the pattern. Repeat and improve, level shifts, and empowering statement tied on close. Got it? So let's go through some of the ones that I talked about. I wrote down here. I went through like the 5,000 of these that I wrote and picked out some of the ones I thought were relevant. So we're not looking to sell anymore. I can understand why you might not want to sell right now. And what it sounds like you're saying, is, if a cash buyer offered you over the asking price for your home today, you wouldn't sell. Is that correct? Right. So if they may say no to that, and if they say no, I'll probably ask them a few more questions. But at that point, they're not a motivated seller, right? Or I'll be able to tell that they're lying and just keep them engaged. Or they're going to say yes, and then you can move on. Or if we don't get blank, we're not going to sell. I understand completely. And what I'm hearing is, if there were a way for me to guarantee you top dollar for your home in the next 15 to 20 days, that's really all you're interested in hearing about, right? We're going to give the agent another chance. I can totally appreciate that you want to list with the same agent. So what it sounds like you're saying is you don't mind if your home sits on the market for another 6 months with no offers. Am I hearing that right? So this could also go to a different place. We talk about the empowering standpoint, but you could also kind of put it in front of them a little bit, like, so you're going to list with them again, so you don't mind if you sit on the market and bleed your equity out for another 6 months. Wow, I've never heard that before. So you get a little snippy with them.
What kind of response have you gotten when you've gotten snippy?
It varies. I mean, most of the time I'm in rapport with them, so I'm not having to go there. But sometimes it's just in their nature. If you could pick up on that and be confident enough to jump in the cage with them, it works. I've had sellers where they're just assholes. That's just how they are. They're good people, but their personality is just like rah.
Right.
So you have to get in there with them. Otherwise they're just going to bury you. So if you come right back on them, usually they're just like, okay. But it's rare. It's rare that you have to go there. We're going to give our last agent another chance. So that makes sense. And I think the real question here is, are you interested in listing your home or are you interested in selling? Selling your home. Okay, perfect. So let's get together and show you how I sold 75 homes in the 6 months that your agent couldn't sell yours. Again, I'm not going to say that. I'm just being over the top with the response because that's kind of the message here. I think if I in this market, especially if I said that, like if how I sold blah 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 in the 6 months you're on the market, I would kind of come across like arrogant, But that's the mindset. Like, okay, let's back up here a second. what you're saying is, do you want to list it or do you want to sell it? Getting an investor to pay more for him. Oh, okay. So yeah, somebody gave me examples of some objections, and they said, "How do you get an investor to pay more for an investment property?" So I just made this one up. So I could appreciate that you want a great deal, and what I'm noticing is that at $350,000, the numbers work much better for you than if you didn't get the property at all. Wouldn't you agree? So yeah, so that's level shifting. Would you guys agree that these are effective, powerful ways to be able to kind of take this language and move it in the right direction?
Yes.
How has anybody's viewpoint changed so far from the beginning of class till now about objection handling? What have you noticed just in your perception? I'm just curious.
I feel like you have to be in the right state of mind and be secure in your state of mind and obviously know this material relatively well. And I find sometimes when I prospect, you may get frustrated and kind of take me out of my zone or my game. So I think having this arsenal definitely helps.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I mean, that's true for me too. When, before I practiced all this and, had all the experience doing it, it was frightening. It was a challenge to get on the phone. But once I knew this, it was like, all right, let's go. I was never afraid to get on the phone. It was like, this is gonna be awesome.
How did you start practicing?
I studied NLP for 18 months back in. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It's just advanced sales talk, just linguistics. So, it's all of this stuff and then a lot more.
On steroids.
I'm super into it.
You did it through Mike Ferry, right?
I actually did it through Mike Ferry. I was in Mike Ferry coaching, and his son Matthew at the time was a part of the Mike Ferry organization, and he ran this NLP program where, it was like me and 3 other agents. It was a group of 4, and there was 50 groups all competing. So you had to write your 10 sentences a day and fax it in, and if you didn't do it, you lost the point. And it was this big competition, and the winner got to go spend the weekend at Matthew's place, and it was very high accountability. We had to be on a call for a half hour every day, practicing all these things, and just constant practice. It was a nightmare. I remember in the 3rd time around, I was just just jogging towards the finish line, dude, this is rough. But it was, at the end of the day, it was awesome because now I have the ability to talk with people on an easier platform. Unless anybody has any other questions, I have one more pattern to go over here. It's 1:06, so we got time, right? What are we doing? 1:30?
Yeah.
Right. And then we could do Q&A and just play around, role play and stuff like that. So the last one I decided to go over today is double binds. And there's 2 different types of double binds. There's one that sound different but are in fact the same choice. Okay? I'll explain that in a minute. And then the other is more of take the action or enjoy the result. So one is, you're saying 2 things that are exactly the same, but sound different, not really giving them too much of a choice. Or the other one is you're kind of doing the pleasure pain, this or that. So, powerful closing technique. We already know this from Bowles and language of sales. Most people who took it, right? But we never use the word "but" when we're talking to clients. We're going to replace it with "and." With double binds, we're going to use the word "or" to create the choice. So, this is a situation where you may, and I don't know what examples you guys have there, but an example where you may be on a listing presentation trying to get them to agree to your price. Okay, so you can list your home at $689, or we could just price it to sell in the next 30 days. What do you think is best for you? So you give them two choices, right? But they're both the same choice. So if they say, well, we want to price it to sell in the next 30 days, great. $689 is.
And just quickly, the response of, well, what's the difference? If they ask, well, what's the difference?
Well, you told me you got to be moved by what, March?
That's right.
Right. So in order to get you there, we have to price it so that it sells quickly, right? So we could go through the mortgage process and everything. So $689 is the right price. Okay. Sign here. You can meet with me to discuss making an offer on the investment property, or you could just sign the contract that I faxed over and send it back, which would be more efficient for you. You can either call the loan officer now to get pre-approved, or we could set a meeting in my office for today at 2. Which do you think works best for you? You could decide this is the right house for you, or we could just go ahead and write an offer on your favorite one. Which do you want to do? You could sign the contract now, or we could write up the offer back at the office. Which do you prefer? You can list your home with me tonight for $349K, or you could just price it right. We'll have it sold in the next 30 days. It's kind of like the other way. So would you like to sign the listing now, or would you just want to go ahead and get all the paperwork done first? It sounds ridiculous, right? But I mean, we use it all the time. And, a lot of times we're like, oh, I'll go with paperwork. Right? So you could either reduce the price now, or we could just make your house the best value on the market, so we get multiple offers. What do you want to do? So those are some of the give them two things that sound alike but are actually the same thing. That sound different but are actually the same thing. The other type of double bind that we could do is called take the action or enjoy the result. So these get a little bit more aggressive, I guess. I do use them a lot. But again, you're going to err on the side of caution with these. And, if you have an amiable personality, you're probably not going to be using these objections with them because you frighten them. Well, not all of them. Okay, so you could accept this offer now, or we could just make sure that your kids start in their new school immediately, which is more important to you. And then this is the other one. So indirectly indicating that in the future they'll have two choices. So you're probably going to get really excited about my service, or you might just sign the listing right there, so I could get the process started immediately. Won't that be great? What? Okay. And then the second part, the lesser of two evils. So you're taking the action or suffer the consequence. These are the ones that are more harsh. So, this is when you want the customer, what you want the customer to do is slightly objectionable. You give them a choice of something they don't want to do, and then something even worse that makes the first choice look acceptable. So you can either meet with me tomorrow, or you could continue to get bombarded with calls and lose more money on your phone bill and your home, which is going to be easier for you. So that's kind of funny too. Like, it's just a funny thing to say. Like an expired would probably laugh at that and be like, "I like that guy." So do you want to sell now and be happy, or do you want to wait for the bank to deny the loan modification and basically ruin your financial future? So the way I see it is, you have two choices. You can sign the contract now, or you could just continue to make 2 mortgage payments for the next 6 months. What are we talking about here? Okay, so again, situation and rapport really plays a big role. Because if you don't have a rapport and you say that to somebody, they're going to be like,
That's the worst one. Not on the next page where it says your kids can spend on the street and on New Year's on the street.
I didn't get there yet. Hold on. Wait, you could lower the price now and sell soon, or just watch their savings fly out the window month after month. In 2010, 2011, like I would say these people all the time because it was much different than now. It was what was the other? Are you going to make an offer on this house right now, or you're going to be forced to choose from one? Are you going to make an offer on this house right now, or do you want to be forced to choose between other ones that you don't like as much, or something like that? Do you want to sell now or watch your equity bleed away? Which is better for you? It's pretty rough. You can either act now and hire me, or continue to pay $15,000 a year for your kid's private school. You said you want to move to the burbs, to the good school district, right? Okay, great. So let's save you that extra $15,000. Wait, what was the other one you said?
You can
The
either
last
rent
one's on renovate apartments.
so
You
your
either
kids
rent
can
one
spend
of
the
these
new year on the
apartments or
street,
your
which
kids
is better for you.
Are you?
You can either rent one of these apartments, or you and your kids could spend the new year on the street. Could be true.
Actually, there's one reason they should say that to me. I want to be in that apartment before the new year. I want to spend my new year on the new apartment. That's what they say.
Wait, say it again. So
I actually have a renter saying
okay,
they
that they want to be.
move into an apartment, they want to spend the new year, Christmas, on the new apartment.
Yeah. So well, New Year's is like what, next week, or in a couple of weeks. So we could either sign one of the leases now, or do you just want to come stay with me for the New Year's and we'll hang out? Or like the seller who just wants to wait, right? But it's just not in their best interest to wait. So yeah, I totally understand that you want to wait till the spring when everybody else is going to list their home. But the truth is, you can either watch the market value go up from this home, or you could watch it go up from your new home, which is going to be better for you. But yeah, I would say that to them.
Even in the past year and a half, all the buyers I'm working with, there's a bidding war. It's like, well, do you want to? You sure you don't want to go up a little more? Because they end up be paying it on the next property because we're appreciating 1 to 2% a month.
Yeah.
And then I had so many people that, in hindsight, 6 months later, like, I really should have gotten more in the last one. I was like, well, it's been set.
Mm-hmm.
The liability's off you.
No, that's true. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, there was a bunch more that I took out of here. But yeah, I mean, so again, no rapport, and you say stuff like this to people, and you're not in rapport, you don't have that connection with them. I remember like one of my first listing appointments ever. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just got these Mike Ferry scripts and was like, just calling people and setting appointments. And Mike Ferry had this objection handler that was like, if they don't want to sign the contract right there, that you ask them to sign the contract, and if they change their mind later, like you'll rip it up or something.
Yeah.
It was like something along those lines.
24 hours. Yeah.
Just so look, I made the commitment to come here. Let's make a commitment together. Let's sign the contract, and if you call me later and say, you know what, we're not going to do it, I'll rip it up. At least this way, I know I've done my job here.
Have you ever had to use that and people will sign it?
Well, Mike Ferry says it a lot better than me, but this was when I was brand new, and I was at a listing appointment of FISBO, who was an attorney, and said that to him. And it's just an example of like, you got to be in rapport, because I was not in rapport, and I said that to him, and he was like, if you say that again, I'm going to sue you. Like, you don't say that to an attorney, but I didn't know at the time like what rapport was. I was just blindly reading stuff. So my point is, make sure that you're.
But aren't you saying the truth though, because they do have 3 business days to decide?
You are, I know. You are.
But it's still legal what you said.
It's legal, but it was just weird. And he was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, and I was like, what did Mike say after that? Like, I don't remember.
That's a good question about the double binds. When you create 2 choices that sound different but are in fact the same choice, do they often pause and go, because you're basically saying the same thing before they answer? Do they look confused when you do that?
Again, not if you're in rapport and you have trust and authority, and you've been talking to them with empowering language, and you truly want the best thing for them. Most of the time, no. I've never had somebody call me out and be like, did you double bind me? Or like, or just even know what I was doing. Most of the time, this stuff it's hypnotic, so, and I've practiced it a lot, so it's just a part of my language. Most of the time people
because
are just
one of the two that they're going to choose, it's basically the same thing. They're going to list with you or do the price reduction or whatever. There's no way out when you're saying that. That's what it looks like to me.
That's why those are the best ones.
Right.
Especially if you're talking with somebody who's an amiable or an amiable personality, and you give them two choices, they feel obligated to make one of those choices. So why not give them two choices that work for you?
Right.
Not for you, for them, right? But, it's crazy, right? I mean, you would think that people just.
I mean, it's brilliant, actually. I don't remember this.
But again, it's got to be phrased the right way.
Right.
It can't be like, do you want to sign the contract in blue pen or black pen? It's got to be something that has a little bit of like grit to it.
Right. Well, what kind of speaks to their motivation?
Yeah, it could be that too.
The way these are phrased, it's like, okay, do you want to go ahead and sign this tonight, or do you want to make sure your kid starts public school in June in their new home? I mean, basically, you've reiterated, you've given them straightforward choices, and you've given them a choice based on their personal motivation.
True.
So it's kind of like whatever language they hear is the way they're usually going to respond.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. You could go deeper into this, and when you study NLP, you learn. You've all probably heard toward pleasure, away from pain, right? So learning to use either of these double binds is going to determine on whether they're toward pleasure or away from pain. You're going to, I will figure that out in my first conversation with them. I'll know from the way they're talking to me whether they're motivated by going towards pleasure or away from pain. So if the husband's moving to Atlanta for a new job and he's got to report February 1st and he's a towards pleasure person, my double bind to him would be, you know what, we can get this signed right now and I'll have offers on your desk in the next 2 weeks. Or we can just make sure that you and the wife and kids all move there together in February. So that's towards pleasure. Where if he was away from pain, I would say, why don't we do this? We could sign the contract today, or you guys, you could split up with your family. You can move there in February and they'll stay here. Which one do you want? So it depends on if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, it won't work.
Right.
So there's like a million different ways to say the same thing. Yeah, it is cool, and it's in order to know this stuff about your clients, you have to listen to them. And just listening to them and like being there in the moment, connecting with them, instead of thinking of what what they might not say that you want them to say, or just being in your own head, like a maniac, like we are most of the time. If you're actually to stop and like be in the moment and try to, the more you practice this stuff, the easier it is for you to just actually connect and like listen to people, and then you realize like, holy shit, I haven't listened to anybody my entire life. I've just been waiting for my chance to speak. Probably not true about everybody, but it's just our natural instinct. So yeah, your skills all around get better. You start to notice that people will be gravitated towards you a little easier, and you'll get more business as a result. That's just the end result. You get less objections. You'll finally figure out how to handle all these objections, and then you're not going to get them.
Is there like an NLP course that you would recommend?
No, I don't know. I mean, language of sales is good, right? It's going good. It's a MAPS program. So Matt Ferry was the one that taught me. He's not doing that anymore. He's doing mindset training now. I don't know if Mike Ferry has any NLP. You know what's really good actually? I have a bunch of coaches. So one of my coaches is Bill Pipes from Tom Ferry, and he does a course called Sales Edge for the Tom Ferry, and it's all about this type of stuff. So I would check that out. It's just like a big 3-day course. It's not a coaching program. And then Tony Robbins, of course, has his NLP stuff, which is way out there. It's very, very different. Really cool, but different. And then there's a bunch of like books and stuff on it, but I just couldn't get through a lot of them. just choose the psychology portion of it for me wasn't like engaging enough. So, we have some time if anybody wants to throw out any questions you have or any like objections that I haven't covered that you think may not work with this stuff or may work with it or you just want help with it. You know, it's what? Nothing.
Now, the stuff that I'm working on right now,
Yeah, that's
that you might have more input on this. Is, like throughout the year, when you're prospecting, there's people like, yeah, I'll sell next year. So I'm kind of working on. I put all those people into a list and coming up with a script that's like what their objectives would be. Because they did say they want to sell next year.
Yeah.
I'm calling them to set appointments for early in January. Those calls are going to be tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
So we should probably role play.
Yeah. Yeah, we probably should have done it last year. Because you probably find that a lot of them may have sold. You know, and that, because, well, the objection handler would have happened when they said that they want, I'm going to sell next year. So when you're making these calls tomorrow, if they say, yeah, we're going to wait till the summer. So, you know, you just want to, that's not necessarily an objection, but you do want to ask questions around that. Like, well, let me ask you, what's different between selling now and selling in the summer? Or, you know, if you knew you could get more money now than the summer, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you would rather sell now, right? Or is there something preventing you from selling now? You want to try to find out, like, what is their reasoning? Is it that they think they're going to get more money? Or is it that they are not ready to move until then? And then once you could find that out, then you're going to set the appointment. And then if they give you an objection, you're going to handle it. So, we can work on that.
I mean, I was talking to a buyer who their kids are in a school and they want to buy in the spring because their kids are going to be in school until a certain amount of time.
Okay. So
that's probably
we should have talked about this in the beginning of the class, that there's two things. So we have objections and we have conditions. Mm-hmm. You know, a condition is something that you can't change. You know, an objection is a question in the mind of the client that hasn't yet to be answered. So my kids can't move till the spring and they're buying. I wouldn't say that's an objection. That's probably a condition. They're absolutely not. So my question would be, all right, so if you found your dream home that you loved, but you had to close in March, would you just let it go? You know, and if they say yes, then you know it's a condition. But if they say, well, no, then you start to ask questions about, all right, what's that dream home? We're going to go find it. We're going to close in March. But otherwise, yeah, it's a condition. And it's just, again, setting them up. So, wow, all right, great. Spring's right around the corner. I'm glad I got a chance to talk to you today. And then you take them through you sit them down and go through the buyer consult or whatever and do your thing.
Yeah, they basically said, well, let's schedule for it to meet in February. So.
Nice. Well,
I know people that want to make all these repairs to their house before they put it on the market, and it'll take them a few months because they don't have the money to do it.
I have another situation like that as well.
Yeah.
Send them to me.
So do I.
What's that?
In my case, you would tell them, great, well, part of my expertise is I know what helps sell a home and what doesn't. So let me walk through and tell you what's worth your time and money and what's not. It's out the door and shows that you have the best fits for them. You don't want to waste their money either.
Yeah. So it's good. That's perfect. I'm glad you're thinking that way. Most of my clients do, and part of our expertise is being able to help show them what kind of repairs are going to have a return on investment and which is just going to be throwing money out the window. I'm going to assume you don't want to throw money. So why don't we get together and I can come through, take a look at the home, see what it has to offer in person, and while I'm there, I can show you two things extremely clearly, blah, 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 close the appointment. And then because you want to turn it into a listing appointment as well.
Did you get the objection? Well, not like, oh, you know, you can only come by if you have a buyer. If you come with a buyer.
Yeah.
what is a good handler?
Yeah. It really depends on where I'm at with them. You know.
Can you tell them like you need to take a look at the property to see if it's what your buyer is looking for?
Sometimes, if I get a sense that they're just going to go, bring her back, I'm not going to say that. You know, so in that situation, I could say, yeah, you know what, we have 500 buyers in our database, so I definitely have a buyer for your home. I don't want to waste your time, my time, or the buyer's time. So I just want to come by, take a quick look at the home, and see what it has to offer in person. That way we can match it with the best qualified buyer possible. We don't just want anybody running through your home, right?
I had a couple of actors just to walk around with you.
No. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. You want to be, you want to be transparent and honest with them too. But if they're just the person that I've said to people before, well, do you have a buyer? And oh yeah, you know what? I do. I have 2 buyers tied up in my trunk right now that only want your house. No, I don't have a buyer. I haven't even seen your house yet. Why don't I come by and take a look at it? And they're just like, okay.
Just to follow up on that, is there a way that once you do that and see the home, I guess during this time you're building rapport as well, but do you have a shift in terms of speaking to them as a seller? Or did you say?
I'm not going to go there with under one circumstance and then try to just become a different circumstance. So when I'm setting that appointment, I'm going to tell them, okay, I'm going to come by and take a look. I want to be efficient with our time. So what I'm going to do is while I'm there, I'm going to show you blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to turn it into an appointment. And if they say, well, I don't have time for that, or whatever it is, I'll just say, well, what are you committed to? You want to sell the home, right? So if you knew that sitting down for 15 minutes was going to get you blah, 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 I'm going to assume you seem like a smart person, you're going to want to know that, right? So while I'm there, look, I'm going to be there anyway. Let's sit down, we'll go over everything. I'm not going to force you to sign anything. Let's sit down. I'm going to try to make that into an appointment. And if I can't, I'm going to go there with the thought that I'm going to be there for 3 minutes to get face-to-face with them, build rapport, take a look at the place, and then get out. I'm not going to try to weasel it into an appointment because that's really hard. Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else?
I know you're hired. I like that you have 2 buyers in your trunk. I'm ready to go.
Nothing else? Any other
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Pretty sure we need it 1:30.
Hey, are you doing like theory coaching right now?
No, I left. Just a back
You did, okay.
But a bunch
I
of
was
my
thinking of
agents-
starting coaching again. My theory's
So,
I've never done it.
yeah. It's just, if you're just, it's like, you want somebody to help you like that. Just find it done. Just talk to Steve, he's hammered, and Chris are all like,
Yeah, what you got?
I'm in town there, and it's much different. Mike's very nothing else works.
Did you get them?
Everything else works. I don't get on the phone and go,
It's awesome.
but my experience
Yeah. Well, listings or their buyers?
then you can supplement it later with everything else. That's
Oh, wow. And they want downtown Jersey?
I'd be white fairy down there too. This is
I have a beautiful property in 41.4 million. Beautiful. It's a 1 family.
Yeah, it's just, you know,
Beautiful. I mean, the rentals are through the roof. I mean, 40 is insane. I'm telling you, I'm not. I haven't listed it yet, but I mean, you could do a small comparison on the rentals. Everything in that area. We did an appraisal. The guy's like, eyes closed, 1.4. It's like the house sold literally within half a mile for 1.6, 1.7. So I know it's gonna sound.
When you have it, it's just like always up to buy.
See, you gotta be able to, like, if you're playing like Red Light Green, I have push your business, you know, that's where
This guy is motivated. I mean, this house is a great location.
The one, I mean,
All right, thank you.
I haven't met too.
Yeah, no problem.
For the first time, then hit you over that.
What's going on?
I'm going to shut this right
What is it?
Not Anthony.
Oh, yeah?
He's really interested in this. But Anthony just talked and he wanted to visitor.
I'm not gonna check.
He said he wants to know the sister, but he just don't
It's not in there?
I don't see it. For each unit, and then he wants to know like the comps for the area too. For those. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you said it was a good deal. Like I don't really know those sizes.
All right, let me see if it's still around. If it is,
And then he's still interested in 130.